not there yet. And so what the governor's pronouncement to end the statewide mask order next Wednesday, to go to 100% in terms of our businesses, it really undermines all of the sacrifices that have been made by medical professionals, doctors, nurses, EMS workers, firefighters, police officers, municipal workers, people in the community, a lot of sacrifices that have been made at every single level. It just works against, minimizes all of those efforts. And it's the third time when the governor has stepped in, when things were going in the right direction, made a decision, and things got worse. If you can recall, at the end of April, things were trending in the right direction. Governor steps in, opens things up, and then we face June, July, and August. And then during the fall, things were going in the right direction. Governor steps in, and then November, December, January, things now going in the right direction. Governor steps in. The other thing, and Dr. First, I believe, less than 15% of Texans have gotten the vaccine. Less than 15%. The goal is to get up to like 70, 80, 85% for herd immunity. Less than 15. And so until people can get their vaccine, what is the protection? You know, in large part it's the mask. Or in many cases wearing two. But it's the mask that's providing that level of protection. So just very disappointed. It's a step in the wrong direction. Doesn't make any sense unless the governor is trying to deflect from what happened a little more than 2 weeks ago with the winter storm. Statewide system failure, not just by ERCOT, and not just by the Public Utility Commission, where they have asked people to resign, but also state leadership failure on something that was foreseeable and preventable going back to 2011. Okay? When more than 50,000 single-family households in the city of Houston, I believe, have had like busted water pipes and still recovering. Mass food and water distributions. Okay? And so unless the government is trying to deflect from that statewide, system-wide, national embarrassment and system failure, and to have us now just focusing our attention on the statewide mask order. Either way, it's failure to lead on both fronts. And it's disappointing and it's disheartening. And it will have an impact on creating confusion in terms of getting people to move and continue to move in the right direction. So let me yield at this point, and I yield to Dr. Purse.
Thank you, Mayor. And like the Mayor, I'm at a bit of a loss for words. I just want to hit on a couple of things. One is, over this past year, if this virus has taught us anything, it's taught us that this virus adheres to no rules. When we think about the cold virus that we've all had, it pretty much gets in your nose, maybe into your mouth, but it just affects the nose and the mouth. Flu, it'll get into your lungs. People die from the flu every year. Makes your muscles ache, but pretty much it's just in your lungs, your throat, and it stays there. This virus attacks every organ system, the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the intestines, the skin. And if it's taught us anything else over this past year, it's that anytime we give it an opportunity to rear its ugly head, it will absolutely take that opportunity. It has done that every single time. If there's anything it's been consistent about, it's been that. And so, in the wake of the governor's order, which we're going to affect next week, I would like to urge Houstonians that just because the governor no longer has the mandate, that doesn't mean that we can't step up and fill the void and behave the way that we know slows this virus down. You can still wear masks. You can still avoid crowded places. You can still, for the businesses that are going to go to 100%, you can vote with your feet as to whether or not you want to go there. Remember, the person, if you become infected, and let's remember that somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% of the people who are infected have no symptoms, have no idea that they're spreading it. This is why when we as a community, with the leadership at the state level, it's mask mandates and occupancy rules, that's why we're able to have some control Because otherwise, with 40% of the people having no idea that they're spreading the virus will take advantage of that opportunity. And let's close with one thing. Remember that if you're infected and you're spreading the virus, the person you are single most likely to spread it to is a member of your very own family.
So let me just say, for all city venues, all city facilities, okay, all city employees, you're still obligated to wear that mask. Not through next Wednesday, but all the way through, okay, until I tell you otherwise. So for all city facilities, if you're going to the library, if you're going to the George R. Brown Convention Center, okay, any city facilities or city venues, you will still be obligated to wear your mask. I'm also going to ask the legislatures to speak up. The legislators, Texas House of Representatives, Texas senators, they need to say something, and they need to speak up as well. And then again, just bear in mind that less than 15% of the people have gotten their shots. That means 85+% of Texans are without their shots. Everybody starts taking off their masks. This virus will continue to spread, okay? So, disappointing, but I hope that people will continue to keep their masks on. We'll stop, take whatever questions you may have.
Mayor, a couple of questions. First one, personal. You stand here before us appearing somewhat defeated and lacking the energy you normally have behind the mic.
Well, I don't feel defeated. I am disappointed by the decision made by the governor. But I don't feel defeated. Now, do I feel for individuals, for example, who have not gotten their shots, and the people who have sacrificed, like doctors and nurses and EMS workers and firefighters and police officers who have been on the front line and who have sacrificed, many municipal workers who have died? Do I feel for the families of Floyd LeBlanc, the funeral I went to on Saturday, who worked with me with Centerpoint, but was on the executive loan program during Hurricane Harvey, and was with me every single day during Harvey, and who was buried on Saturday because he died of coronavirus? Do I feel for the 500,000 families across the United States who have died? And the fact that we have been making progress and moving in the right direction, and then for a state leader, the governor, to, without any real need, to say, take your mask off, to do that? I don't feel defeated. I'm very disappointed, okay? Because we're talking about lives. And what about schools, teachers, who don't necessarily want to go back to in-person class because they're fearful of getting this virus? Businesses that have shut down or who have closed. Many won't open again. So that's what people, these long lines, wanting to get the vaccine. And all of a sudden, you're saying to Texans, starting next Wednesday, you can take your mask off as if the virus is going to stop because the governor said it? No. I am disgusted by things that are foreseeable and preventable. And I'm disgusted by leadership 10 years ago that could have taken prudent steps, but didn't. And now there are people, thousands with busted water pipes and no water. And then on the cusp of that, 2 weeks later, for the governor to be making this decision after failing to act years ago? No, I don't feel defeated. I'm going to still do my job here in the city of Houston. I'm going to do my job. But the people who are vulnerable to this virus, get this virus, may end up in the hospital and may end up dying, those are the ones who I'm speaking for. No, he's the governor. But even the governor should be held accountable. And people should call him out when he makes a wrong decision. There's no reason for the decision that he made today. Absolutely not. Except maybe you're trying to appeal to a group that will find favor with you saying, take the mask down. But what about the rest of us? Okay? So, disappointed. And as Texans, we don't always, look, why must Texas always be in the national news for making decisions that go contrary to science and the medical professionals and data? You tell me how many other states are doing the same thing, saying no to masks. Why must we be always out front on these type of decisions? We were just out front with the winter storm. That was a national embarrassment. And now this decision today? No. Hashtag Houston Strong, still standing. And in spite of, I believe many people will continue, I hope, to do the right thing.
So do you read this as allowing for concerts and professional games inside stadiums? Do you read that it includes all those large-scale clubs, all those large-scale events are now allowed to happen and without masks, potentially?
You know, I'm asking the legal department to take a careful look at his order to see what it permits and what limits are out there. Certainly when it comes to our city facilities and venues, you know, I can say you will keep your mask on, okay? But once you get past city-sponsored, produced, licensed events, permitted events, I don't know how much more authority we have. Because back in April, when the governor stepped in, he took away much of the power that local officials had in order to pronounce and enforce certain things. So I don't know, but between now and tomorrow, legal is taking a careful look at his order, and then I'll be in a better position to say what we can allow and what we don't want to allow. Anything that would allow, as the mayor of the city of Houston, to say you must put your mask on, I will do just that.
But even if it reaches the 15%, it's the county judge who has the authority to make new restrictions, not you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Channel 26 asked a question. What is your reaction to the Republican, to RIP Texas being one of the biggest trending topics on Twitter right now? I think maybe you addressed that with your embarrassment comment.
And we'll say that again. What is RIP?
Rest in peace.
Oh,
Dead. Texas is dead.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Look, I mean, you know, we've had in the country, across the country, over 500,000, 515,000 people who have lost their lives as a result of this virus. I think in the state of Texas, maybe about 35,000 or so who have lost their lives. About 1,800, for example, in the city of Houston. Look, I don't want another person to lose their life. And with the now that we have the J&J virus, you know, starting as of today, so there are vaccines. As of today, there are 3 vaccines that we are operating, that we are using now in this city and in the state of Texas. But what Dr. Pearce said on yesterday, even though the virus may be decreasing, the variant is increasing. That variant is increasing. So, you know, in fact, Dr. Pearce, if you'll speak to that, because that's something that we need to be very much concerned with.
You know, Mayor, you mentioned about how Texas made national news. So last night was national news that Houston is the first major city with the full complement of international variants have been detected here. So we've got the South African, the Brazilian, the California, the New York, as well as the UK. And what we found in the wastewater is that while the total amount of virus in the wastewater is going down, which parallels the positivity, the good move that we've been making over the last several weeks, the amount of variant, in particular the UK, which spreads more easily, is on the rise. And we've seen in many communities around the globe, in particular, obviously in UK, their numbers are moving in the right direction. They seem to be having control until this variant took over, because it spreads so much more easily. So we are in a race right now to see how much vaccine we can get into people before the UK variant takes over and we start having another wave.
And so what's your protection in the interim? If you haven't gotten the shots, what's your protection? It's these masks. Okay? You start taking these masks off, these variants are increasing, all 5 variants are right in the city of Houston, then you're putting yourself in harm's way.
Last question, Mayor. I know
Sure.
you sent a letter with Lena Hidalgo to the governor ahead of his announcement. Tell me about that.
Well, we were hoping, and certainly I was hoping that the governor would not be rolling back the statewide mask order, but based on the teaser that he provided, we decided to send a letter in advance encouraging him not to do that. Look, I can understand easing some of the restrictions. I can understand that, but not rolling back the mask order. And it wasn't just, Judge Hidalgo and I talked this morning about sending the letter, and we wanted to send it before 1:30 so that he would get it to express the sentiment of Houston as well as Harris County. But we were not the only ones. I was on a conference call last night with the mayors of Austin and San Antonio. They were doing the same thing. And their county judges. And everyone wanted to get the letters to the governor way before his 1:30 press conference, because we were all fearful that he might be making a decision to roll back the statewide mask order. So it's Houston, Harris County, Austin, Travis County, San Antonio, Bexar County, all on the same page. And then there are other mayors who are expressing concerns. And since he made his pronouncement, many of the mayors across the state of Texas have been expressing concerns because it makes it very difficult to encourage the people in our respective jurisdictions to keep the mask on when people are starting to hear mixed messages. That's what makes it difficult. They hear the governor say you don't need the mask, and then they're hearing mayors and county judges say keep the mask on. So it's almost like if you have children and one parent says yes, another parent say no, you gravitate to whoever the kid gravitates to the message that he or she prefers the most. Okay, that's been the problem in dealing with this pandemic from the very beginning. Mixed messages. But I think this is a situation I have not heard any medical professional. I haven't heard one single doctor or nurses or scientists say take these masks off right now. I haven't heard it. Maybe they're out there, but I think they would represent a very small minority. So the statements by the governor go contrary to the medical professionals, to the data, to the science, and the fact that all of these variants are existing, and we're trying to rush to get these shots in the arms before the variants take over.
Mayor, have you had any feedback from business leaders, corporate leaders, business owners about them wanting to see a diminished role for masks or be released from a state mandate? Has that been communicated to you from any sector?
Not one single business leader has asked me, Mayor, will you drop the mask mandate? Or we are opposed to the mask. Not one. Now, I can certainly understand businesses wanting to be open, but in the state of Texas, you're open to 75% already. That's considerably greater than most places throughout the country. So now he's going to 100%. Okay? But I have not had one business leader come to me and say, Mayor, these masks are in the way. Not one. Not one. So the question has to be, why? Or is this intended to be a deflection from the mass system-wide failure that occurred more than 2 weeks ago that has grabbed the headlines across the country? And this is an attempt to deflect us from massive statewide system failure at all levels to have us talking about this today. And if it is, that makes it even worse. Okay? Thank you all so very much. Thanks, Dr. Burris.